Yes, and hello once again. I'm Max Rat, and welcome to the Max Rat Deconstruction Zone. Yes, so it's April 28th, 2014, and I have another show for you this evening. The name of the show tonight will be called Flight 370, Explaining Media Fakery. And so everybody's been asking me about what's going on with this missing airplane in Malaysia, or started in Malaysia. Supposedly it's missing. So I took a look into that, and I put together another show for you today. And what I want to start right out by saying is this: in this show, I'm not going to try to prove to you where the plane is, or what I'm going to tell you is what I will do is more or less start off with an assumption that there is no missing plane, okay, and that all of this is a contrived media rollout story, and the reason for that is to satisfy certain agendas, very specific agendas, and to manipulate the thoughts of the public, so they can prepare you and put you in the right place to be to react in certain ways, and then ultimately these agendas will benefit from these from the media manipulations and the way that they've contrived your thoughts or manipulate your thoughts accordingly. So with having said that, we're starting out with that, and I got a long show ahead of me, and I put it all together for you. So why don't we just get the ball rolling here and start the show? Once again, this is Max Rat Deconstruction Zone. I'm Max Rat. Welcome aboard. And we're going to talk about this Malaysian Flight 370 all show, and what I'm calling it is Explaining Media Fakery. So thanks again for tuning into my show. Let's go.
There's a matter called the truth which has to be served. It's a difficult thing, the truth, in a case like this. And the most I can promise you is we'll do our utmost to get at it.
We're here to unearth as many facts as we can. I'd appreciate hearing from you only facts. And you could save us all a lot of time if you'd avoid personal hypotheses so we can keep the air clear and not clutter it up with 6 dozen theories. Theories happen to be my business.
I'm not just another loudmouth. I'm a loudmouth who says things you're afraid to say.
I'm glad you're passionate. I just hope you're not riling people up with your show.
Remain seated and you will get complimentary drinks.
Don't worry. If you take one of these, you won't get airsick at all.
Thank you, Doctor.
This is Captain Over.
One moment for your call from the Mayo Clinic. Go ahead with your call.
This is Dr. Brody at the Mayo Clinic.
There's a passenger on your Chicago Flight 209, a little girl named Lisa Davis, en route to Minneapolis.
Excuse me, this is the operator, Captain Over. I have an emergency call for you on line 5 from a Mr. Ham.
All right, give me Ham on 5. Hold the Mayo.
So you wrote an article entitled Fabricating Terror, and the first question that you ask in that article is, why does the FBI orchestrate a fake terror plot?
Yeah, so I just gave you a quick run of an introduction there. But the last clip was, why does the FBI orchestrate fake terror plots? And that was a clip from I've used in my show before, where the newscaster was asking the writer of the article, a guy named Paul Craig Roberts, why does the FBI orchestrate fake terror plots? Now, I'm not specifically calling this an FBI orchestrated fake plot, but this is a media fabrication and a fake plot and a fake story. Who exactly are the agencies or the people behind it? I'm sure there's several people, several entities contributing to this story, and hence the agendas are fulfilled accordingly. But let's just keep it going from there. These are orchestrated fake plots. Keep it going.
My dear guests, I am Mr. Raw, your host. Welcome to Fantasy Island.
Welcome to Fantasy Island.
Now, most airplanes take off and land as per schedule. On rare occasions, they crash. But all airplanes can be counted on doing one or the other. Now, yesterday morning, this particular airplane ceased to be just a commercial carrier. As of its arrival, it became an enigma. A 7-ton puzzle made out of aluminum, steel, wire, and a few thousand other component parts, none of which add up to the right thing.
Yeah, that was an old clip from the old Twilight Zone. That was Rod Steiger. Is that his name? Yeah, I think so. Speaking, and he was talking about an airplane that they had that was fake. It was an enigma. It was like it didn't make any sense, and that's exactly what's going on with this story. Similarly enough, and we'll keep it going from there.
Air traffic controllers in Southeast Asia have lost contact with a jumbo jet carrying 239 people.
Everywhere I went over the weekend, people were asking me about the Malaysian jetliner that has disappeared into thin air, pardon the pun.
Everybody's been asking me about that too.
It's a big current story. It's devastating. The whole world is wanting to know what's going on. Nobody has any answers.
Yeah, I'm going to try to provide you some answers. Keep it going.
Everyone, including myself, is talking about, Jesus, what the hell happened to that plane?
Yeah.
Well, this tragedy certainly is still a mystery.
This tragedy is still a mystery. That's a CIA head, Brennan. And he's in on it too, and he's out there giving interviews too about that, which is it's interesting enough. Keep it moving.
Did it crash? Was it hijacked? Did it land somewhere? Did the pilot maliciously fly the plane into the ocean? No one knows.
Nobody knows, and it's all kinds of different angles and different theories and this and that, and it's just a crock of nonsense. And I'm going to show you all through that. Keep it going.
I don't think at this point we can rule anything in or out. I think we have to continue to search as we are. Until we have more information, we don't know.
Again, and why we have the Secretary of Defense, the head of the CIA, these people are all giving interviews and are out there as part of the propaganda corps. I don't know. I mean, I don't really feel like it's their place in the news to be giving credibility to nonsensical stories like this. But that's where we're at these days in this ridiculous media hoaxsterville place that the American public has seemed to found themselves stuck in the middle of, and that's why we get all this garbage in the news, and that's what this show is about, is trying to sift through it all and show you exactly how you're being manipulated. Moving on.
What we don't know and what we do know are sort of starting to come together.
Yeah, we don't know, we do know.
There are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.
That's a former Department of Defense Secretary Rumsfeld just telling you some nonsensical jibber-jabber.
So there's no confirmation the plane has crashed. What are the other possibilities if it hasn't crashed?
Well, if it hasn't crashed, then it would have presumably landed at this stage.
Genius. If it hasn't crashed, then it presumably landed. Beautiful.
So there's no confirmation the plane has crashed. What are the other possibilities if it hasn't crashed?
Well, if it hasn't crashed, then it would have presumably landed at this stage.
And you mentioned that that there's not any solid evidence at this point.
Nobody can tell us with any authority where it went.
No matter there's been no evidence at all to support any of this.
We just don't know what's happened.
And I've got the statement here, Piers. We deeply regret, interesting use of language, to have lost all contacts with this flight.
We have not seen this kind of investigation held ever, at least in the history that I have been involved in it.
Yeah, just a nonsensical investigation of a non-existent entity, but keep it going.
Malaysian Airlines say they just simply have no idea where this plane has gone.
There has to be an explanation. A legitimate, valid, believable, understandable explanation.
It was effectively a manufactured crisis.
This is America, and in America, we don't just bounce from one manufactured crisis to another.
He's trying to solidify his leadership at home by manufacturing a crisis so he can look like a hero to his people.
And the other thing we've got to do is to stop having these crises manufactured every month.
Yeah, so we manufacture crises and we make up stories, and then and very clever people put them all together, just like they make a TV show, and in order to satisfy agendas and to move you down the right path and manipulate your thoughts accordingly. That's what's going on here in this show, and we're going to make that very clear to you once again. Moving on.
One agenda, the United States is engaged in wars of aggression that are war crimes under the Nuremberg Standard. And the United States gets a lot of criticism. And so one way to deflect that criticism is to always have acts of terrorism. And these manufactured, fabricated acts of terrorism are used in a propagandistic way to justify the wars against terrorist countries. And, of course, also, they're being used to create a police state. And also, people are making a lot of money out of it. Look at all the full body scanners that have gone into the airports. Michael Chertoff represents the full body scanner company, the former head of Homeland Security. They're getting rich. And now the chief of Homeland Security says they're going to put them in train stations, bus stations, sports events, courthouses. They'll have them in shopping malls. They'll have them on the roads. So money is also a factor in this.
And, of course, we've got conspiracy theories.
You must also know that there are so many conspiracy theories out there because the entire world wants to know what happened to this flight.
However, there's no question that many Americans want to hear all kinds of theories about what might have happened to the plane.
Yeah, we love all kinds of conspiracies, crazy theories, but yet and then we're told the only ones that are sane and make sense are the ones that the media tells you, which is exactly the opposite of the truth, which is always what you get from the media, the opposite of the truth.
I continue to believe that all of that mystery has to be on purpose. You know, even I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist in general. I'm a pretty logical person.
There you go. So this is a supposedly a passenger on the plane's girlfriend, okay, who she's going to say she's being interviewed ad infinitum or ad nauseum all over the media. Her name is Sarah Backage, which is a weird name also, B-A-C-J, baggage or whatever, however you want to pronounce it. And she's going to say that she's not a conspiracy theorist because she's logical. Like a conspiracy theorist is by definition illogical. Again, I don't even know if I like the term conspiracy theory, but as long as it's being used by all shapes and sizes. But she's trying to plant the seed. So she's a passenger's girlfriend, and yet she's the star of the show on every channel. And people are like, well, what about Mac? What about the passengers? What about the where are they? And I'm like, well, all we've seen is one supposed passenger's girlfriend. Okay, so she's the only passenger that anybody knows or has spoken in the media, and she speaks on every channel. Because they're just limiting those type of questions, and people like so you just show one person who's obviously an actress and reading scripts, and then people will buy into the whole idea that there's 239 passengers missing. Why, I don't know. Then they showed some Chinese lady crying and saying she was a passenger, but that's so nonsensical that and it was just, and she's speaking Chinese with an interpreter that's not an interpreter, of course, once again, and so I just didn't even bother going into all that garbage. But keep it going.
I continue to believe that all of that mystery has to be on purpose. You know, even I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist in general. I'm a pretty logical person. But some of the leads almost seem to have been planted, you know, to distract people from maybe something else that's going on.
Oh, isn't that a very conveniently scripted little line that she said? Yeah, maybe to distract people from something else that's going on, like stuff from behind the scenes that we don't know about. Yeah, well, and occupy you with some nonsensical garbage about a plane that's missing with that doesn't make none of it makes any sense at all. Keep moving from there.
The story reminds me of the John F. Kennedy Jr. plane crash. You may remember nearly 15 years ago, JFK's son, his wife, and her sister disappeared off the coast of Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. The 38-year-old Kennedy was flying a light plane in fog. For days, Americans tuned in to hear theory about the tragedy because no facts were known. In the end, it was pilot error as the plane crashed into the Long Island Sound.
You are full of crap.
Yeah, and what he said about anytime you mention JFK, you're going to get conspiracy theory and you pop into your head. And even though it's JFK Jr. and a flight, and he's like, yeah, everybody knows he just crashed into the Long Island Sound, which I seriously doubt that, but that's a whole nother show and a whole story and all that stuff itself. And again, that's to distract you again, and to get you out of focus again for what's really going on, which is another hoax. Keep it moving.
The moment that there is an incident of this nature, the very senior management of the airline, the CEO, the chief engineer, the chief PR people, everybody in the very, very most senior people in the airline will have gone to a special room. In some cases it's known as the epic room, in some cases the emergency room. And this has been designed and constructed so that information flows in to the directorate and out again. It's a sterile room, so information is very carefully controlled.
The only British idiom I know is that fag means cigarette.
Well, someone tell this cigarette to shut up.
Really, and anytime you hear this guy Richard Quest from CNN, you know it's just a total crock of garbage story, I promise you. And keep moving from there. Tell that cigarette to shut up already.
People call me still and go, I don't believe they have goats that are part spiders that produce armored milk.
Okay, that was an interesting little clip I found there in the middle of one of Alex Jones talking about this story, where he said he can't believe that people have the nerve to call him up and tell him they don't believe his claim that they have spider goats that are part spider that produce armored milk, whatever that's supposed to mean, and that just to show you. I used to, well, I still do listen sometimes because Alex Jones every once in a while has a decent guest on his show, but I can't even, I've stopped listening to him because I can't take it any longer with all the nonsense and misleading propaganda and garbage that he spews. Anyway, so he's telling you that you'd have to be crazy not to believe that goats are part spider and produce armored milk, goat milk, whatever that's supposed to mean. I guess it comes out to armored goat cheese or something like that, because I don't know how many people drink goat's milk, but just nonsense. Here, I'll play that one for you once again. We'll keep it moving.
People call me still and go, I don't believe they have goats that are part spiders that produce armored milk.
The dreaded goats that are part spiders. Thanks, Alex. That's good. That's some good stuff to know. That he doesn't think you're a total moron. No. Here we go.
If we get enough outside domestic terrorism, kidnapping of people, and airplanes hijacked, and all of the alleged hijackers are murdered, and yet they have these mysterious passports and links to the CIA, what we get at home is the counter-reaction, the conventions, the experts that come out of the woodwork and analyze violence for us. And yet, all the evidence of these experts in the news media that I take, if I put together all the various newspapers, is evidence that it is coming from the intelligence community, just identical to the way that Hitler brought terror and blamed it on the left so that he could take total control of the government.
Exactly. So that was Mae Brussel in a show she did in 1977, talking about how they come up with these acts of terror and things like that all over the place, which are contrived and orchestrated by the CIA. She said, again, though I can't honestly tell you which agencies or combination of therewith are orchestrate all these things to the detail. But however, I'm sure they're all involved because that's what they get paid to do. Anyway, and then we come home. The reaction at home is after they come up with a stupid story like this Malaysian flight. They come home and we get a load of experts, and now we're going to go into all these experts on everything, and none of them are experts as far as I can tell on anything. And they're like, "Oh, I'm an expert on planes, and I'm an expert on this, and I'm an expert," and get the people all scared up, and then they manipulate us into a way just like Hitler manipulated his people with the Reichstag fire. That was an act of terror. And to take further control and move us further towards a police state, which is what you just heard in that other clip earlier, and just move it towards this world totalitarian dictatorship that everybody's so anxious to do. These world government criminals are so anxious for. Keep it moving.
You know, if whoever has done this is trying to accomplish a bigger thing, this is just one step. You know, I'll leave it to the experts to look at the evidence. I mean, I don't have any expertise in flight in planes or satellites.
Okay, that was the passenger's girlfriend again saying whoever has done this is leading towards a bigger plan, and she's leaving it up to the experts. Exactly what Mae Brussel just told you was the plan. You know, I'm going to play those next two clips in a row and keep shut, and then we're going to keep it moving.
If we get enough outside domestic terrorism, kidnapping of people, and airplanes hijacked, and all of the alleged hijackers are murdered, and yet they have these mysterious passports and links to the CIA, what we get at home is the counter-reaction, the conventions, the experts that come out of the woodwork and analyze violence for us. And yet, all the evidence of these experts in the news media that I take, if I put together all the various newspapers, is evidence that it is coming from the intelligence community, just identical to the way that Hitler brought terror and blamed it on the left so that he could take total control of the government.
You know, if whoever has done this is trying to accomplish a bigger thing, this is just one step. You know, I'll leave it to the experts to look at the evidence. I mean, I don't have any expertise in flight in planes or satellites.
Philip Mudd, former deputy director of the CIA's Counterterrorist Center and senior intelligence advisor at the FBI.
Experts.
Joining us now is Barbara Peterson. She's a senior aviation correspondent for Condé Nast. She's been covering the story intensely from the beginning. Thank you very much for being here.
It's great to be here.
Joining me now to talk about this all is John Golia, former board member of the National Transportation Safety Board, and John Ransom, a retired commercial pilot and aviation safety specialist with Safety Operating Systems.
In these 3 weeks, CNN has been, much like our Native American ancestors, using every part of the tragedy. With non-stop breaking news, reenactment, expert panel, graphic simulations.
There you go. We got experts in this, and Rachel Maddow has an expert. She's a Condé Nast aviation expert. Condé Nast is has magazines like for cooking and for fashion and Vogue magazine, and then she's an aviation expert for Condé Nast, whatever that's supposed to mean. The other guy's an advisor for the FBI and a former CIA director of Counterterrorism Center, whatever that is. These are all the experts. They're lining up for us to comment on this fake terror or fake airplane missing story. And also, CNN's ratings have been in the tank as of late, so they're using this. They kind of took the lead on this rollout bonanza story, and they're trying to boost their ratings by making this, by just giving you all this nonsense about all kinds of garbage that they're every single stupid angle you could think of, and they're like, well, maybe that's the case, but maybe it isn't, maybe that's it, maybe it's not, maybe this is it, and all these stupid experts giving you all this nonsense. So there you go, CNN taking the lead with that one, and then we have another expert here.
Everyone has been searching for the missing Malaysian airplane Flight 370, but actually all we needed was Courtney Love. She's clearly found Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, or at least she has a pretty good lead on it. Just check out the evidence she's posted on Twitter this week.
Okay, so Courtney Love claimed she had found or thought she had found the missing airplane, and they used an Indian broadcasting network. I think that was from that News X, one of these, or maybe it was just, anyway, an Indian accented woman who's telling you that Courtney Love has found the missing Malaysian airplane, just to add more absurdity to this whole story. Here we go.
And I know it's important to you, and because I've been following you on Twitter and on Facebook.
Right, and then and of course Anderson Cooper's all over the Twitter and Facebook because that's where Courtney Love was posting her information on.
Everyone has been searching for the missing Malaysian airplane Flight 370, but actually all we needed was Courtney Love. She's clearly found Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, or at least she has a pretty good lead on it. Just check out the evidence she's posted on Twitter this week.
And I know it's important to you, and because I've been following you on Twitter and on Facebook.
Sure has, and there you go.
We have put every resource that we have available at the disposal of the search process. There's been close cooperation with the Malaysian government, and so not just NTSB, but FBI, anybody who typically deals with anything related to our aviation system is available.
You sound so refined. Are you intelligent now?
Affirmative. That means yes.
I've had every news service, every television network, and a couple of professional mind readers trying to figure out what the great big mystery is. We, CIA, are working with FBI and TSA and others.
The CIA is working the FBI and the TSA. Isn't that nice? The TSA is really doing a good job to help find this missing plane by checking your bags and frisking you down extra in the airport and making you take your shoes off. That should help you find the plane.
I don't believe aliens took the plane, as another network reported and discussed that aliens may have taken it.
Yeah, he doesn't think so.
Others believe that it was intercepted by UFOs.
The possibility that Malaysian Flight 370 was abducted by a large UFO. We know some UFOs are over a mile wide, and we also know that the UFOs have the capability to shut down electronics.
Yeah, we're well aware of all these things.
And that, of course, would cause the plane not to send out signals. So, we know this occurred at missile bases. UFOs will be seen in the area and all electronic devices will be shut down. This, of course, with intentions to protect the world from nuclear disaster created by mankind.
There you go. This is all very common knowledge.
Others think that it was transported to another world via wormhole.
Okay, all right. That's also does not seem overly likely. There are wormholes.
Yeah, but there are wormholes, though, and transport to another world, like in that movie Lost, I think is what they're referring to in that.
There's one theory out there, the chilling so-called zombie plane theory.
You and your friends are dead. You're all dead.
Oh, good. He thinks we're zombies. He'll leave us alone.
To think 25 countries, 43 ships and 58 aircrafts have searched for over 9 days to find any sign of the missing Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 coming up empty. Yet, as soon as Courtney Lau was on the case, bam!
Date, it's March 31st today. This one has come out. It says Indian Ocean IntelliHub. According to the freelance journalist Jim Stone, one of the American passengers, Philip Wood, a technical storage executive, IBM, who would know how all this stuff works, who was aboard the now missing Malaysian airline flight, keistered his iPhone 5 and his anus after Boeing 777 carrying 239 people was hijacked by military personnel while en route to China. Amazingly, Stone claimed that metadata within the photo yields evidence confirming 100%. Metadata is something you can't change. It goes with the picture when you send it. Every single picture has it.
Okay, that's the that Philip Wood is the boyfriend of the woman who, the other woman on the scene, this lady Sarah Backage. I already played a few clips. I'll play a few more for you because she's been all over the media, and they're going to tell you that Philip Wood sent a picture from his iPhone that he smuggled in his anus, quote unquote. Okay, an iPhone. Okay, in his anus. Okay, if that's not absurd enough for you. And if that doesn't sound uncomfortable enough for you, and how he so the plane was being hijacked, he said, and he says by military personnel, no less. And then he smuggled his phone into his he keistered, quote unquote, his phone in his anus to and I'm sorry for the crudity here, but this is being reported as news, okay, in mainstream news. And Philip Wood is, like I said, the boyfriend who's supposedly on this plane, and his girlfriend is out there saying that the plane isn't missing because and then they find out because he happened to have keistered his iPhone 5, as they tell you, just in case you think he might have had an iPhone 4 or something. No, he's up to date, and his keister is up to date as well.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit smoking.
Oh yeah, that was from the movie Airplane. I went through all those old airplane movies, and they're kind of all funny. And there's loads of clips in the show from those movies. So keep it going.
As reported by Stone, the picture was posted along with the following text, allegedly from Wood. I have been held hostage by unknown military personnel after my flight was hijacked and he was blindfolded. I work for IBM and have managed to hide my cell phone in my ass during the hijack. I have been separated from the rest of the passengers and I am in a cell. My name is Philip Woods. I think I have been drugged as well and cannot think clearly.
He better have been drugged to keister his phone and his you-know-what.
We're taking this search very seriously. I describe it as a possibility. The aircraft could have gone north or south.
They had the capability to detect any flight from the west or to the east to the west coast, from the South China Sea to the Indian Ocean. I find it shocking that they were not able, or they give some very scanty sort of information.
Based upon all the information we have now, I can say that I believe the jet is at the bottom of the Indian Ocean.
A black box emits a ping for 30 days. So why can't we at least find the black box?
The search is still on for the Malaysia Airlines jet that vanished early Saturday. If it's found, recovering the plane's so-called black boxes will be key. They're designed to withstand tremendous impact, salt water, and can emit a radio signal from 20,000 feet underwater.
The plane had a black box in it. They know exactly where we are. They're coming.
The good news is, however, that the flight recorder emits an ultrasonic beacon, a beacon that can be picked up by submarines.
Okay, that was the infamous Michio Kaku, who I will get into a little bit as we move through the show. He's an expert on everything. Okay, Michio Kaku, the expert on everything. He's an expert on black boxes, and it emits a beacon. And why? Because he looked that up on the internet, just like you or I could have done too. I don't know why CBS needs to tell he needs you. He's an expert now on airlines, on earthquakes, on super volcanoes under Yellowstone, he reads the mind of God, which I will show you in this show. He's an expert on everything. So now he's going to say, well, the good news is that the black box emits a beacon. Everybody, it seems to be well documented in the news and throughout all media that black boxes are made to do just that, to be able to be recovered in the instance of a crash or an event such as this. But in this case, we can't seem to find the black boxes, so I guess all that technology is useless too.
What is the ACARS system?
ACARS is a unit inside the airplane that allows the pilot and the company and Boeing company to transmit information that they needed for flight. It's also transmitted to Boeing so that they know where the airplane is at all times. There's also an independent unit that's attached to the engines, which goes directly to Rolls-Royce.
Okay, that was John Lear, the one of the foremost experts in aviation on this planet, and he's Learjet. He's also a top aviator and pilot himself. And he, now that was interesting in that little clip where the guy asked him about the ACARS, which is a reconnaissance unit that has several functions in an airplane, and which he's explaining to you. But it was interesting in that clip where there was a clip out part where a blatant edit or something where I guess they just didn't want us to hear what he was about to say in there, and then it skipped and he kind of said Boeing twice. So I'll play it for you again so you can hear it, but I'm not sure what was deleted from that because I couldn't tell. I tried to re-listen to it, and then I went back to not only to off of YouTube, I went to the actual radio station's website where they did the original interview, and it was clipped on that too. So I can't seem to find what was said there, but bottom line is he's saying that there's two ACARS units in a plane. One sends a signal to Boeing and to the owner of the plane, like for instance Malaysian Air, and the other one is a separate ACARS system which relates just to the engines, which Rolls-Royce gets a signal so they can monitor the movement of the plane as well. So and you can hear how it's nearly impossible to disconnect those units, but in this case, of course, somehow they were disconnected as well.
I don't know much about mathematics, but I know when a man knows what he's talking about.
Okay, back to Lear again.
What is the ACARS system?
ACARS is a unit inside the airplane that allows...
And let me, just before I play this one more time, listen to the edit right in the middle where he's talking about... Well, I'm going to try to point it out to you as we go. Here, we'll play that again.
What is the ACARS system?
ACARS is a unit inside the airplane that allows the pilot and the company and Boeing company to transmit information that they needed for flight. It's also transmitted to Boeing so that they know where the airplane is at all times. There's also an independent unit that's attached to the... As
you can see, they needed for it, and I think that he's going to say some sort of flight maintenance or something like that, but it's skipped right in the middle. Let's see if I could clip it for you. I'll just start it right back in the middle again.
Boeing company to transmit information that they needed for flight. It's also transmitted to Boeing so that they know where the airplane is at all.
Yeah, so there was some sort of edit in the middle there.
At all times. There's also an independent unit that's attached to the engines, which goes directly to Rolls-Royce.
Right, so there's two units, ACARS units on the plane, according to one of the foremost aviation experts in the world.
I don't know much about mathematics, but I know when a man knows what he's talking about.
And that's not including these so-called transponders that we hear about.
The first thing we learned was the confirmation that one of the communication systems was shut off prior to the pilots signing off with air traffic control. I think that's very telling that a pilot still has the wherewithal, the calmness to basically shut down the ACAR system, and again, that's the reporting system that reports back to the maintenance facility on how that aircraft is doing, checks in with air traffic control, and then turns off the transponder.
Right, so this guy on Fox is claiming that the pilot turned off the ACARS and the transponder units.
Well, why wasn't the plane transmitting more data?
You know, this SATCOM link could have transmitted more data, and one reason it may not have is that Malaysian Airlines may have not paid to have the data sent. Inmarsat told me that it could cost as little as $2 an hour to send really basic flight data, but it's not clear the airline was paying for any sort of service like that.
Okay, Inmarsat is the satellite company, and they're saying this guy from NPR is saying that he's checked into it, and that it's not clear if Malaysia paid their $2 an hour while they're in flight, Inmarsat bill or something like that in order to get this data sent, which is again just absurd and nonsensical, but that's what's being reported as such. I'll play that one for you again.
Well, why wasn't the plane transmitting more data?
You know, this SATCOM link could have transmitted more data, and one reason it may not have is that Malaysian Airlines may have not paid to have the data sent. Inmarsat told me that it could cost as little as $2 an hour to send really basic flight data, but it's not clear the airline was paying for any sort of service like that.
This is really unprecedented, almost in recent memory.
Is that specifically because the transponder, for whatever reason, stopped transponding?
Yes, and there again, we don't know why that happened. I mean, and, you know, if there had been a sudden catastrophic event, of course it would have stopped because everything would have stopped.
Which is not true either.
Boeing's
transmit over a system known as the health management system constantly to usually the operator to let them know how the airplane is doing.
Okay, the health management system. I don't know what the hell that's supposed to mean. That's the first I was hearing of that. And that was another report from CNN. Boeing's have transmit over. That's the transponder transmissions or the ACARS transmissions. I'm not sure. He calls it the health management system. That's what they're calling that on CNN.
They're lying to us again, Larry. Come on, you're a Princeton graduate. You should know how they do it.
That we can put a whole space lab up in the air for 6 months with people living in space, and we can't find this plane. It doesn't make sense to me.
But I think people are starting to realize we're going to get a lot of satellite data. There are going to be a lot of objects out there, and they're pretty accurate coordinates, but we're not finding anything.
If the airplane isn't showing up on radar, it does have a beacon, a radio beacon, which is supposed to go off if it crashes, so you can find it. If it's landed at an airport, we'd know it.
We're talking about a disappearing act. Now look, this just couldn't have happened.
And if you wanted to do that, to make a plane vanish, how easy is that to do?
On a 777 like this, it's really not very easy to do at all. Airplanes have communications that's both voice and text, kind of like your cell phone. And, I mean, those communications are pretty hardwired into the systems of a modern aircraft. I spoke to 4 commercial aviation pilots, 2 777 pilots, and they said they had no idea how to turn these systems off. They said you would have to go through big checklists. You would have to possibly pull circuit breakers if you wanted to deactivate them. So to make this happen would really require some degree of premeditation and a lot of knowledge of the aircraft.
The ACARS unit transmits flight data, whether or not the circuit breaker is pulled.
Okay, so first of all, the NPR guy who investigated with the pilot said they have no idea how to turn it off, even if they could. Okay, even if they wanted to. And then and he said then they said you'd have to disconnect the breakers, the circuit breakers to disconnect the ACARS. And then Lear said, no, that's not. If the ACARS system is going to transmit whether you disconnect the circuit breaker or not. Okay, so they probably have their own power supplies built into the ACARS system. So basically, let's face it, the idea that anybody could, which makes perfect sense anyway, because I don't know why you would even give that as an option to the pilot to disconnect the transmissions of data and important information. You know, why would you, or just why? So you can hijack a plane and disconnect it. So that's what they're telling us. And again, I am at this point proving to you that none of this story could possibly be true or not. And then you'd have to lead into, well, why would you do that then? Or why do they need to make up these stupid stories? And you have to and try to put it all together. And I am putting it all together for you, but try to wrap your head around it that this is to satisfy agendas, to keep you scared, to keep you confused, to keep you not knowing what's going on, while the other agendas are advanced, like the police state and the constant perpetual wars and money making ways and ultimately to propagate the advancement of the world government totalitarian dictatorship that the people who are make up all these stupid garbage are trying to implement here.
Is there any other circumstance in which you can imagine why the transponder would have stopped, why a pilot might have shut it off, or any other reason why it would have gone off?
Yes, well, there's been a lot of speculation about that in recent days. And of course, most of the interpretations or explanations for that are not terribly encouraging. There are things like, yes, the pilot turned it off. Now, why would the pilot turn off the transponder? It either suggests a hijacking or something else nefarious, a suicide scenario, all of which have all happened before, too. So a lot of these scenarios are things that we know can happen. And Yet there is no evidence to go on in this case to suggest any of it.
That's what we're all waiting for. Barbara Peterson, aviation correspondent for Condé Nast. Thank you for helping us understand this matter.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
She's like, we know it can happen, but there's no reason to. We don't understand why what happened. There's no reason to explain why it would happen. Then she's like, and then aviation. Then Rachel Maddow labels her the aviation correspondent for Condé Nast, and thank you for helping us understand this matter, which is exactly. She just confused it further, but that's what you get. That's what you get.
The black box you're talking about, of course, is the device that records everything that happened to the airplane when whatever happened to it. The problem is we don't know where the plane is right now, and that box is with the plane. If it's in the water, and if that box is pinging, as you say, putting out this kind of emission that can be picked up on sonar, first you have to know where it is to look. And that's the problem. They don't know where to look. The area where this plane was lost is so geographically huge, it can include all the way up to Kazakhstan or all the way down by Australia.
That's just all double talk also, like how a plane could be that, how they can't know where to look for a giant plane is absolutely ridiculous also. And again, just leading to, like, this whole story is absolutely ridiculous. Why people would insist there has to be a plane, because we have one person who's obviously a paid shill or actress who's claiming that her boyfriend's on board, and her boyfriend is then the same news is telling you that her boyfriend keistered his iPhone 5 in his butt, okay, and then he unkeistered it out and was able to send transmissions from it and telling us that the plane was hijacked by military personnel is just totally absurd, and that's all part of this garbage story and people are like, no, Max, it has to be real, it has to be true. No, it doesn't. This is obvious. They're telling you that you have to be a moron to believe this.
CBS This Morning contributor Michio Kaku is a physics professor at the City University of New York. He joins us this morning from Nashville. Good morning.
Okay, first of all, I want to say one thing about this name, Michio Kaku, okay? He's supposedly a Japanese guy. Michio Kaku is got kind of a Latin derivative of Michio, which is mucho or much, okay, or a lot of or full of. And Kaku has a derivative of kaka, kaku. That's in, in the baby talk, that would be shit. So he's Michio Kaku. He's full of shit. Okay. And that's exactly what and I promise you that is a fake name. And I promise you that's the definite reason for this name. And that's what, and that's how that's neuro-linguistic approach to brainwashed moron TV worshippers who believe this garbage. Okay, so you're going to get Michio Kaku, who's again an expert on everything, and I'm going to show you, and I will discredit him right now too. But CBS has him on now. He's full of shit talking about how he knows so much about planes now and transponders and radars and things like that. And listen to what he says now. This fucking moron. And he's not a moron. He's a psycho. He's a paid jerk off. And why? And why? Everybody. But they get him on for everything. Everything. It's an earthquake, Michio Kaku. It's the super volcano underneath Yellowstone, Michio Kaku. He can read the mind of. Well, you're gonna hear that coming up, Michio Kaku. He's going to. He's a theoretical physicist. It's just nonsense. Okay, now what the hell does he know about airplanes now?
CBS This Morning contributor Michio Kaku is a physics professor at the City University of New York. He joins us this morning.
Even City University of New York. That's Cooney, I guess. There's 23 different city universities in New York. We don't even know which one he's a professor at, and what he's live in Nashville, whatever that means. So it's just such nonsense, okay? And he's Michio Kaku. He's full of shit, Kaku.
CBS This Morning contributor Michio Kaku is a physics professor at the City University of New York. He joins us this morning from Nashville. Good morning.
Morning. Well, Hollywood has us brainwashed into thinking that we can locate a cell phone in the middle of the ocean. Wrong. It doesn't work that way. The Indian Ocean is basically a dead zone, a black hole with regards to radar.
Okay, so Michio Kaku tells us that the Indian Ocean is a black hole when it regards to radar, whatever that's supposed to mean. Why? And he doesn't give us any explanation why in the Indian Ocean, specifically Indian Ocean. But he's like, no, you can't find anything in Indian Ocean. The Indian Ocean is a black hole. Like whatever that. What is that supposed to mean? And he says with that smug, whatever you want to call it. I'll just discredit it right here in his own words. So there's Michio Kaku. Okay, play that one again and let me play you a few more clips on him.
CBS This Morning contributor Michio Kaku is a physics professor at the City University of New York. He joins us this morning from Nashville. Good morning.
Morning. Well, Hollywood has us brainwashed into thinking that we can locate a cell phone in the middle of the ocean. Wrong. It doesn't work that way. The Indian Ocean is basically a dead zone, a black hole with regards to radar.
You are the author of, among other things, the book, The Physics of the Impossible.
Yeah, isn't that a nice title? The Physics of the Impossible. That's exactly what he is.
You're a theoretical physicist.
I'm a theoretical physicist.
So you're the real deal. You're one of the co-founders of what's it called?
String field theory.
String field theory. Okay. Well, this is the craziest type of physics, though, right?
That's right. It's defined in hyperspace, and we
what is that? What is hyperspace?
Higher dimensions that we think could allow us to quote read the mind of God.
Okay, he reads the mind of God and he defines it in hyperspace, which was from the old Asteroids video game they used to, where you hit hyperspace, and he's Michio Kaku. He's full of shit.
We have invisibility.
We're going to have it very soon. Within the coming decades, we will have something resembling a Harry Potter invisibility cloak.
Okay, there you go. So now he's an expert he's going to have an invisibility cloak. He reads the mind of God. He's an expert on supervolcanoes. The Indian Ocean is a black hole, which can't be, and that's why you can't find the transponders or the black hole or although he did say that the black boxes send a beacon signal for 30 days or whatever, but we can't. But because it's in the ocean, you see, you've been brainwashed to believe by Hollywood, and he's an expert on black boxes, on black holes, on invisibility, Harry Potter cloaks, on reading the mind of God, on supervolcanoes underneath Yellowstone, on earthquakes. It just never ends. Okay, with this guy, and he's a clown. Okay, and he's Michio Kaku.
I don't like your jerk off name. I don't like your jerk off face. I don't like your jerk off behavior, and I don't like you. Jerk off.
Moving on.
From the flying public's perception, not necessarily professional pilots, we always thought that every plane, no matter where you were, and I just did a trip coming back from Australia, you always figured you were on somebody's radar or somebody was watching you by a satellite or controlling or tracking you to always know where you are. How is it that a jumbo jet in this modern day and age can vanish? That's why this story is so captivating to so many people. We now find out that there are places on the Earth where big modern planes can disappear.
Yeah, we found that out from Michio Kaku.
That radars don't necessarily follow the same kind of things at the same time, different countries, different procedures, on and on and on. But you're right. You put your finger on what is the real issue here, that most people had no idea that in this day and age, a jetliner could simply vanish.
Oh, you didn't know that? Yeah. Well, that's we just told. Well, they just told you that. So, yeah, you didn't know that planes can just vanish in this day and age. Yeah, because it's just a part of the times, man. It's the invisibility cloak, the Harry Potter invisibility cloak.
Now, how stupid can you be?
You know, there's clearly no sign of crash. It was a nighttime activity, so satellites should have been able to pick up any kind of flame.
Okay, the girlfriend of the passenger on the plane. Now she's an expert on satellites, and although she's not an expert on, she's not a conspiracy theorist because she thinks logically, and why she's like satellites should have been able to pick up flame. What is she commenting on something like that for? She's an expert now on that too.
There are internet rumors, completely unconfirmed, some suggesting it may have landed somewhere in Vietnamese land and has suffered an electrical fault. Now, that may be completely bogus, but is it possible that a plane could lose all contact with its airline and yet still be able to land without electrical power at all?
Oh, I think so. I mean, it's you're getting hairy if you're coming into some airline unannounced. You know,
Right.
but it could happen, sure.
Okay, I think so. It could happen, and it's just hairy if you an airline. He means airport, of course, but airport unannounced, however. But he's like, do you think it's possible if you lost all electrical capabilities, you could land the plane even? And he's like, I think so. Oh, thanks for that. That sounds like some accurate information.
Shit, they're lying to us!
It simply is not within the realm of possibility.
Frankly, one of the really troubling things is the facts just don't line up. I mean, any one theory just doesn't really, it's not borne out by what all the facts give us.
It's NPR science correspondent Jeff Brumfield. Jeff, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Hey, excuse me, I need to rent a car, preferably one where the radio is stuck on NPR.
Here you go.
Hello, it's me. I am returning.
How was the car?
Coastal and superior. I never knew whisper talking was so smart.
Right, so Peter who's listening to NPR, now he talks like this. He's like, yes, I'm very superior. I'm very intelligent and superior to you now because I'm from NPR. I speak with whisper talk.
So why do all these fools believe this charade?
The search area for Flight 370 now covers 7 million square miles.
7 million square miles, okay? Anybody want to check those statistics, okay? By the way, the moon is 238,000 miles away. So, 7 million miles. I haven't checked it, but I guess we're probably closer to Jupiter. but that's the search area we're covering for this plane.
The search area for Flight 370 now covers 7 million square miles.
There you go. That's being reported on the mainstream media. I think that was CBS.
Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we have not found anything that appears to be objects from the aircraft.
Could they be close to finally find a scrap of debris?
This looks like the debris field from an airplane crash. It may not be, but it has the signature look of it.
Perhaps it really wasn't the debris we thought it was.
Breaking news, a Thai satellite spots 300 objects.
Pieces of debris, whether they're from the plane or not, we simply don't know.
And the ocean is also filled with a lot of trash, and so it's hard to tell one thing from another.
Possible debris spotted. The search moves 700 miles northeast. Could that be a piece of the missing plane?
Some objects floating in the water. No word yet on what those things are.
Anything that's been retrieved and looked at in one of these ships has turned out to be not connected to Flight 370.
Another day, no confirmed plane debris.
Are you kidding me?
What was thought to be the plane's tail turned out to be a raft of logs.
There's no floating device whatsoever. Every time we get in, your flotation device, you would think at least one could have been found.
Yeah, not a scrap of debris, again, similar to the 9/11 planes where not a piece of one plane was found anywhere. Not a piece of a scrap, not even a flotation device, not even a piece. But they're going to tell you that the plane crashed somewhere, but there's not one piece of any plane debris anywhere, and then they're going to tell you, well, now it's too late.
It just seems like it's bigger than a needle in a haystack. It seems like it's a needle in a field full of haystacks.
So it's like finding a needle in 10,000 haystacks.
There you go, Michio Kaku. It's like finding a needle in 10,000 haystacks.
This area, now we were told that this was about, 125,000 square miles? That's a needle in a haystack if I've ever seen one, right?
Not one shred of evidence. Not one needle of a needle in a haystack of evidence.
They're looking for a needle in a haystack in a very cluttered environment.
We're not searching for a needle in a haystack. We're still trying to define where the haystack is.
Like searching for a needle in a haystack.
We're looking for a needle in a haystack. We are looking for a needle in a haystack.
It is a needle in a haystack.
It is a needle in a haystack.
Needle in a haystack.
So this is a real needle in a haystack.
It's like looking for a needle in a haystack.
A needle in a haystack.
Needle in a haystack.
This is a needle in a haystack.
It's the needle in the haystack.
So talk about looking for a needle in a haystack.
This has been a needle in the haystack. They are still looking for a needle in a haystack.
Plus they're looking for a needle in a haystack.
It's a bit like looking for a needle in a haystack.
Still just a needle in a haystack.
Needle in a haystack.
This is like hunting for a needle in a haystack or in a needle in a group of haystacks.
We kind of had the haystack since Saturday.
In thousands of haystacks.
This is not just a needle in a haystack.
It's a needle in thousands of fields of haystacks.
The haystack has gotten smaller.
And now we don't know where the haystack is. It literally is trying to find that needle in a vast
haystack.
It's like looking for a needle in the haystack, literally.
And that, my friends, is called scripting.
It's like searching for a needle in a haystack.
I mean, is this some kind of incredible joke that people are so stupid they'll fall for this?
I'm going to be 100% real with you guys. Stories like this are really difficult to report on because all you can do is speculate, and I hate speculating, right? It's the worst thing.
Oh, yeah, it's so terrible.
Part of our goal here is just to make sure people have good information.
Thanks, Obama.
Tonight we will advance the story and give you the latest factual information.
Other thoughts include that it was disintegrated in midair due to some sort of explosion.
Yeah, it wasn't like poof, for no reason.
Yeah.
There was a mechanical problem, goes the theory, and the explosion was so severe that's why we can't find any trace of the plane or the people on the plane, because it disintegrated in midair.
Yes.
That sounds very, that's how things work in real life. It just poofed it disintegrated into nothing else. Every single thing in the plane into thin air. There you go.
This Boeing 77 seems to have vanished at this point.
Gentlemen, I have a theory. Any one of you ever hear of mass suggestion? So, I think that's what we're dealing with now. The kind of hypnosis. To put it more bluntly, or perhaps a little less believably, I don't think this aeroplane is really here. I think every one of us had a little hypnosis performed on it. A little suggestion.
That was a clip from the old Twilight Zone again.
239 passengers and crew just vanish into thin air.
But you know what else is crazy? A giant plane goes missing and we don't know where it is.
It's frustrating. I think we are all being hoodwinked at this point.
There's the girlfriend of the passenger again. We've been hoodwinked.
You've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok.
It just seems ridiculous that a flight that size could have evaded all scrutiny in today's world.
Evaded all scrutiny, which is a bizarre terminology or way to word that, but that was again the innocently bystanding girlfriend of a passenger. Her name is Sarah Backage, and her boyfriend smuggled his iPhone 5 in his keisterville.
The Malaysia Airlines VP of Operations Control, Fuad Sharuji, told Anderson Cooper's show a little while ago, at the moment we have no idea where this aircraft is right now.
Now that we know that the plane as it left Kuala Lumpur ended up here, turned left, may have missed India, turned in, and then flew over Pakistan. Pakistan said no. Pakistan said nope, that didn't happen. We did not see this plane. It wasn't there.
You know, that area over Vietnam, at least when I was there many years ago, is depending on where they actually were, you know, that's not very highly populated except in the couple of major cities. So there's rice paddies, and there's as you get over towards Cambodia, you know, it's very, very tropical and wooded, and you know, so if it did crash, I mean, they're going to have an idea of where it is. Now, it could take a long time to find it, though, in that type of environment.
Yeah, it's hard to find a plane crash in the woods or in a rice paddy. Yeah, it's going to take forever to find it there, whatever that's supposed to mean. And, you know, Vietnam is just a bunch of rice paddies, and you never find a plane around there.
Now, residents of a small island...
That's more nonsense from CNN.
...in the Maldives have reported seeing a low-flying plane. Now, residents of a small island in the Maldives have reported seeing a low-flying plane.
Anyone who says they saw this overfly the Maldives or whatever, it was dark. I don't see how anybody could say that.
And now we hear that Pakistan says, on our radar, that plane did not appear.
Correct. So the only thing that I have seen that is starting to become verified is the LigNet report that from Boeing saying that they believe the airplane was in Pakistan, which I talked about on Friday.
Another guy on Fox News says it might have landed in Pakistan or an unfriendly Muslim country. I think that would have been picked up by radar and satellites, correct? That would have been picked up if that happened. It's
yes.
a big plane.
Yeah, an unfriendly Muslim country, whatever that is. Another guy on Fox, which is his station, which is this general who said, yeah, I think he's claiming he's for sure it's in Pakistan.
So for this plane, if it
that's so that'll be an excuse to go into Pakistan down the road, again to fuel the war agenda.
would have landed in Pakistan, the Pakistanis would have had to know that.
Yes.
Yeah, and so Kennedy's like, well, if it landed in Pakistan, Pakistanis would have to know, and the general's like, yes, so they would have.
What do we do? Like Mohammed, we must wait until the mountain comes to us again.
Batman.
This plane now, the only way it could get to this, I think, northern...
I call these the psychobabble clips. Okay, let me play this guy from CNN. He's a weatherman or something, and he's like this plane now, and he's like he doesn't even know how to pronounce the names of countries. This is the CNN psychobabble news weatherman clip.
This plane now, the only way it could get to this, I think, northern arc is up through Bangladesh. Somewhere in this area back through here, the old Myanmar, the old country known as Burma.
It's Myanmar, not Miramar. Whatever.
Through here, air defense is not so good, especially if this thing's only a couple hundred feet off the deck. Then you have to climb over the Himalayas. Then you have to really waste some fuel to get up there. And then possibly up here, here's Tajikistan, Kazakhstan.
And when the 12th largest company in the world controls the most awesome goddamn propaganda force in the whole godless world, who knows what shit will be peddled for truth on this network?
Media is completely under the control of the government.
It's a ministry of propaganda.
Yeah, it's just one big state-sponsored network. CBS, Fox News, CNN, it's all the same. It's all government propaganda.
You've succumbed to the propaganda of every cement-headed clown up and down this street. I said propaganda.
I'll tell you something. If I were you, I wouldn't pay too much attention to what everybody is saying.
Must have been the Muslims.
Must have been those Muslims. Here we go.
A substantial population of the cabin passengers are Muslim as well.
They were like, "Oh, look, they're Muslims, of course."
Here comes. This is the agendas coming into play here. Now it's the Muslims. That's what we got to focus on.
You have two pilots, pilot and co-pilot, both of them Muslims.
If you look back to 1999 when Egypt Air crashed, remember what the Egyptians told us? Oh, it was a mechanical failure, when in fact the pilot had yelled Allah Akbar before he crashed the plane into the ground.
I want to read how one of your spokesmen described Mr. Shah, the pilot. He is Anwar's son's wife's mother's father's brother's son.
My mother's mother.
What am I, a schmuck on wheels?
Let me tell you about some more notorious Muslims inside Malaysia. There's a guy by the name of Tuanku Abdul Halim Muazzam Shah. Oh my God. Now you got to look into that guy. Let's do some homework on this. There's Muhammad Najib bin Abdul Najib Razak. And then there's Muhyiddin bin Muhammad Yassin. Who are these folks? The first guy is the king of Malaysia. The second guy is the prime minister of Malaysia. And the third guy is the deputy prime minister.
There's some derogatory Muslim stuff for you. Keep it going.
My reporter's gut is that the U.S. military knows exactly where this plane is and has from day one. They have not taken action because this requires very careful preparation, as we saw with the raid on Osama bin Laden's compound deep in Pakistan. SEAL Team 6 moves very cautiously when it comes to Pakistan. The northwestern areas of Pakistan are generally in Taliban control, and their military intelligence community is deeply infiltrated with Taliban sympathizers, especially in that area.
That was Bill Still, he caters to the older right winger type of crowd, where he's like, yeah, it's the SEAL Team 6 and then the Taliban and Osama bin Laden, and he's going to bring that into the picture for you. If we haven't heard enough of that garbage in the last 12 years by now.
This tweet from Rupert Murdoch proves, quote, "World seems transfixed by 777 disappearance. Maybe no crash, but stolen, effectively hidden. Perhaps in northern Pakistan, like bin Laden."
Oh yeah, so Rupert Murdoch's doing a lot of tweeting, these days, and he's like, perhaps it was it's hidden in northern Pakistan, like Bin Laden.
All right, lads. Now that we're in the air, I can tell you our top secret objective: Osama bin Laden.
But sir, they already got Bin Laden in Pakistan.
Silly Smith, silly goose. That was just something we faked to make the president look good.
Yeah, we faked that. That's fake. You
Exposed by journalists at Al Jazeera, it also gives us a fascinating account of how bin Laden lived in secret for all those years. For instance, to avoid detection, he at one point shaved off his world-famous beard. He bought his compound using a fake national ID card, and occupants paid no taxes. When venturing outside, he liked to wear a wide-brimmed cowboy hat to avoid aerial detection.
That was an NBC report where they told you that Bin Laden bought his compound with a fake ID. He shaved his beard to avoid detection, and of course he wore a wide-brimmed cowboy hat just to get people out west who wear cowboy hats like, oh, I can't believe he wore a cowboy hat, to get them infuriated about Osama bin Laden because he's wearing a cowboy hat on your nerve, and that's how he avoided detection from the CIA for 10 years. And that's what type of morons they think you are. And then this is, okay, we're bringing Osama bin Laden into this thing now, too. Maybe he hijacked the plane.
And whatever is going to happen that they're going to blame on Osama bin Laden, don't you even believe it.
From this point on, whatever they tell you, don't believe it.
I don't believe in that boogeyman shit. They ain't doing shit. I don't believe in that shit. Well, if somebody want to do some shit to you, they doing it. Them motherfuckers ain't talking about it, sending you tapes. I'm gonna fuck you up when I see you.
The entire U.S. population is reliving things like 9/11 in this experience, right? If
Here's the girlfriend of Philip Wood again and Sarah Package again, and she's like, yes, she said this plane thing is reminding everybody, and we're reliving 9/11 from this.
The entire U.S. population is reliving things like 9/11 in this experience, right?
Isn't that a little convenient thing that she finds a way to bring up on CNN? She was on 10 different stations. That's one of them.
The entire U.S. population is reliving things like 9/11 in this experience, right? If an unthinkable thing can happen, even after we've taken all of these precautions, what could happen next?
What could happen next?
It's close to now 13 years since 9/11. I think the memories and tragedy of 9/11 have receded in the minds of many people. And this is not the time to relax, because we know that there are terrorist groups that are still determined to carry out attacks, including especially against aircraft.
We know that was the head of the CIA, and why he's out there plugging this garbage too. He's like, well, we know that we certainly know. Whenever they say we know this, that means you don't know it, first of all. And then we sure do know that, well, it's only been 13 years since 9/11, and or going on 13 years since 9/11, and we don't want to forget about that. Don't want to forget about that. And of course we won't, because they'll be bringing it up everywhere and every other turn. Bill Still's like, that's where they hid the plane, and Rupert Murdoch's tweeting about 9/11 and about Bin Laden, and then Bin Laden, and then this is, we're hiding the plane in the same place we hid Bin Laden, and they hid Bin Laden, and then the CIA guy's like, yeah, well, don't forget about 9/11. Then the passenger's girlfriend's like, this was reminding us all of 9/11 again.
September the 11th. September the 11th. September the 11th.
September 11th. September 11th. September 11th. September 11th. September 11th. September 11th.
September 11th, September 11th.
September 11th, September 11th.
September 11th, September 11th. September 11th, September 11th. September 11th, September 11th, September 11th. September 11th, September 11th. September 11th. September 11th, September 11th, 2001.
Remember, Aaron, that 3 of the 4 airplanes on 9/11, the hijackers turned the transponders off.
Yeah, and even though there were no planes on 9/11.
Yeah, again, I can't tell you how strongly I believe there were no airplanes, but not only airplanes, no missiles, no A-3s, no drones, no Predators, no nothing. It was all just fakery.
All just fakery. That was, again, the foremost aviation expert in the world, or amongst them, John Lear, telling you that there was no planes on 9/11. But CNN, I don't know where he got this one. He's like, oh, you didn't know that they turned all their transponders off on the planes on 9/11 too? I never heard that before. And anyway, this doesn't matter because there were no planes on 9/11. Again, we're just bringing this all back. We're relating it all to 9/11 again, tying it all together for you to make you scared and to be like, just don't forget about that 9/11, you stupid slave.
Are you trying to tell us this is an illusion?
An obvious hoax.
It's like I took the wrong week to quit drinking.
It's got to be terrorism, man. It's got to be. Like,
it's
one-way ticket with cash only. No, it's why? Who else kidnaps airplanes, right?
Who else kidnaps airplanes? Terrorists.
The people who talk like that are trying to frighten you, and when a politician tries to frighten you, you can think of, what is it that he wants me to do? How am I being manipulated?
There you go.
This is a planned activity. Somebody wants to do something and make a message out of it, and it would serve them no good to be seen as callous and brutal and just start killing people unnecessarily, because then they won't have as much bargaining power, I think. I mean, I can't imagine to put myself into the mindset of somebody who would even possibly contemplate this.
Again, the girlfriend of a guy on the plane, and she certainly has a lot to say about all these things, about terrorism, about 9/11, and about how I can't even believe that they would do such a thing.
So one theory is that it was hijacked by terrorists that happened.
And she's like, this was definitely planned.
This is a planned activity. Somebody wants to do something and make a message out of it. And
so one theory is that it was hijacked by terrorists that had fake passports. I think that that's plausible, given the fact that they were stolen, and also the two people who had the stolen passports were from Iran. So that's also fueling some of the terrorist claims.
There was
and Iran, don't forget about them. They're a bunch of terrorists too.
Iranian middleman who bought the tickets for them. So that's the heart of the theory on why it might have been terrorists taking the plane. Look, that's by far the most plausible explanation, because terrorists have taken planes before.
Exactly.
And they bought one-way tickets. In this case, they did on 9/11 in cash, and they had an Iranian middleman.
9/11 terrorism, be very scared, and terrorism and Nazi agendas being propagated by a fake story, terrorism.
You're not dealing with morons here.
Oh, no.
Who hijacks airplanes? Generally speaking, almost exclusively terrorists.
Max, where'd you find this ball bag?
I don't know where I found him. That's the guy Chunk on what he was a Young Turks guy who's also at NBC for a while. He's supposedly Muslim or from a Muslim country. I think he's Turkish, something like that. And he's Young Turks, I guess, and he's Mr. Terrorism and derogatory, speak about Muslims and terrorism, Muslims, and they package that all with him because they're like, well, he's not anti-Muslim and terrorist because he is one. But anyway, this guy's a clown, and I don't know where we found that ball bag.
Max, where'd you find this ball bag?
I don't know, man.
Did it crash? Was terrorism involved?
Did it crash? Was terrorism involved?
And the panelists all agreed unanimously that to control terrorism, we need more infiltration, we need more surveillance of organizations, that the FBI and CIA have been abandoned because we said they were intruding into our privacy, and that we're literally cutting them off, and we shouldn't be afraid of the FBI or the CIA or our First Amendment or our civil rights because, as they said at the meeting, look at the terrorists.
Right, just give up all your rights. It's terrorists. We got to get them.
I would investigate everyone because it's an unbelievable mystery, right? I would do due diligence on all of it.
Investigate everybody because it's an unbelievable mystery.
And these manufactured, fabricated acts of terrorism are used in a propagandistic way to justify the wars against terrorist countries. And, of course, also, they're being used to create a police state.
There you go.
Let's start putting everybody through facial recognition, cross-referencing with INS, DMV, every database we've got.
Yes, you're living in a police state. Your government is evil.
The military agenda, which is a war without borders. We see the emergence within the Western European countries, particularly the United States, Canada, Britain, Australia, we see the emergence of a police state apparatus. We see the criminalization, what I would describe as the criminalization of justice, because ultimately those who decide on the judicial system are the war criminals. And we have a whole pattern and structure of arbitrary arrests of individuals who are tagged or targeted for alleged terrorist activity.
There you go. The advancement of the police state, a major agenda that is propagated through this, through these fake acts, fake plots, and fake media stories. And you ask me, well, why would they do that? And I'm telling you why right now. That's what we're going through it all now with the terrorism and the Osama bin Laden and the police state and the profiteering and the advancement of the one world totalitarian murderous government that's being run out of the behind the scenes, with the theatrics of the United Nations, which I've told you all about in my previous shows. Keep it going.
And the conclusions they had at this convention were that the industrial democracies, such as the United States and West Germany, are now in conflict with the necessary measures to control terrorists. In other words, democracy can't survive if you give in to the terrorists, but democracy is too weak to handle the terrorists. Now, we know what Adolf Hitler did with terrorism, with the Reichstag fire, blaming the left, arresting the left, and taking them off. And out of the woodworks come people with the mentality of Adolf Hitler on the solution for terrorism. And the conclusion of their convention was, of course, that maybe we should give up our freedom and have more surveillance, more wiretapping, opening of mail. And this convention was timed the same week that this, as I say, this Lufthansa airplane was hijacked.
Right, and now we're doing it with this other one. So that was years ago, where they had these terrorism conferences, and Brussels commented on that and said, yeah, they created a hijacking, and then they brought it, and they tried to bring in all these, like, we need to eliminate democracy and freedom in order to get these terrorists to keep you safe. Isn't that how it works?
You're trying to get a sense of what was going on in this man's mind. Was he looking at something in the Indian Ocean, a landing strip, for example, that might help us get a clue about what he was thinking? But the important piece here is how you can match that up with things like what he was emailing in the days before, what Google searches he was conducting. This is a piece of information, forensic information, that you might be able to combine with other information to say, what was his intent? What was he thinking?
We want to know what he was thinking. What were you thinking now? That's a thought crime.
You're a thought criminal.
The excuse for the federal government to come in and the FBI and CIA and do that kind of wiretapping and opening of mail and taking over our private lives, like 1984.
Terror. War on terrorism. War against terrorism.
Global war on terror.
Global terrorism. 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 The evil terrorists. Terrorists. Terrorists, 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 terrorists.
Nah, you're not being played like a total idiot.
Third time I've said that. I'll probably say it 3 more times. See, in my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again for the truth to sink in, to kind of catapult the propaganda.
It doesn't make any difference. You just call them some name, and if you keep doing that often enough and in major channels of communication, most people will believe it.
The only terror I've seen is the government's people on their own people, because I don't see any terrorists around.
None of these terrorists live to go to trial or tell the truth, and the source of their funds is never provided, and yet...
Because there are no terrorists.
The beat goes on, and these conventions give you an analysis of a terrorist profile, a terrorist background, and yet there's no proof that it's not funded by the CIA, and there's more proof that it is funded by the CIA with its links to the high-up military and the Pentagon.
And a lot of times the stolen passports are used either to run drugs or for terrorism. So it's possible that they weren't necessarily terrorists, they were drug runners, etc.
That's a possibility, definitely.
Right, they're terrorists and drug dealers. That's the two things that that people. Oh no, people are always so scared of, you know. And older people are like, oh, get the drug dealers, get the terrorists.
In a few moments, I'll be signing the USA Patriot Improvement and Reauthorization Act. This is a really important piece of legislation. It is a piece of legislation that's vital to win the war on terror and to protect the American people. Law allows our intelligence and law enforcement officials to continue to share information. It allows them to continue to use tools against terrorists that they use against drug dealers and other criminals. It'll improve our nation's security while we safeguard the civil liberties of our people. The legislation strengthens the Justice Department so it can better detect and disrupt terrorist threats. And the bill gives law enforcement new tools to combat threats to our citizens, from international terrorists to local drug dealers.
We're getting the terrorists and the drug dealers. We're advancing the police state, all to protect you. Isn't that like, because that's your problem. We don't need freedom. You need to give up your rights so we can protect you against the evil terrorists and drug dealers, which is exactly who they are. They're the ones dealing all the drugs and creating all the fake terror everywhere. I don't know if there have been any. You know, they've terrorized. They're like Alan Watts said. He said the only terrorism I've seen is the government terrorizing its own people. He said that's the only there aren't, because I haven't seen any terrorists around. And I'm in 100% agreement with that. Let me play that clip again for you, in case you forgot.
The only terror I've seen is the government's people on their own people, because I don't see any terrorists around.
There you go.
The excuse for the federal government to come in and the FBI and CIA and do that kind of wiretapping and opening of mail and taking over our private lives, like 1984.
I admit it. Everything I've said about terrorism till now was fear-mongering.
The main element here that we have to deal with is the fact that fear is what's driving a lot of people, okay?
Fear is how they've been able to work this con throughout the years.
You know, I'm just hoping, and I'm asking, please, to not hurt the people on the plane. You know, find some other way to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, but don't hurt the people. Let Philip come back to me, please.
There's Sarah Beckett, the only passenger's girlfriend who's been interviewed on any. She's been interviewed on every station. Just totally fraudulent, and she is an actress, and probably a military trained actress. Just talking about nothing to do with anybody who would ever really be. Nobody would ever be doing that many interviews if their loved one was in a situation such as this, even though this is a fake situation. And she gives you all the buzzwords, and she touched on every 9/11 and terrorists and the crisis and creating this crisis and there must be some other people behind something. These people, you know, like all these, you've heard it all. It's just if that's real, I'm Rumpelstiltskin. I got news for you.
Fear keeps us alive, Eve. Never not be afraid.
We have nothing to fear but fear itself.
And danger. Continuing danger. Hour of danger. Very, very dangerous world. A grave new threat. Horrific acts of atrocities. Murderous regimes dedicating to killing us. Tyranny and terror. Slaughtered thousands.
The lack of Mayday call means something catastrophic may have happened very quickly.
Now remember, this creature feeds on your fear.
The greatest social messages are promoted through movies and drama, high drama, through the fixation of emotive sequences, emotional sequences, not logical, factual sequences, but pushing points across in an emotional way which register and fix in the mind. So emotional content is very, very important. rather than going through an actual discussion or an argument using logic and facts. There's no debates. And when you're being downloaded through fiction, your guard is down, the censor part of your brain is not in action. It isn't saying, yes, I agree with this, I disagree with that, as you would in a debate or a lecture. You're actually in an alpha state, being completely downloaded with new ideas.
Our top story, there was drama in the skies of Quahog today as a transnational 767 was forced to make a crash landing.
That's right, Diane. As if the world weren't already scary enough, it seems you can't even get on a plane safely these days. Channel 5 has the spectacular footage. Fortunately, no one was injured. However, using state-of-the-art Channel 5 computer technology, we'll show you how disastrous it could have been. Here's how it would have looked if the plane had crashed into a school. Now here's how it would have looked if the plane had crashed into a school for bunnies. Now here's how it would have looked if the plane had crashed into a school for bunnies, but one passenger had survived, gone home, and mercilessly beat his wife.
I'm alive! But boy, am I angry! Someone's gonna have to pay for this!
Why? Is this because I overcooked the roast?
Powerful stuff. You'd have to be made of stone not to feel saddened by that.
So we're the real terrorists. So since there are not any, to keep the people afraid, they have to go out and create them. And as your own news report just showed, the American media plays into their hands. And all of a sudden, a fake plot, oh gosh, look what terrible things could have happened. But nothing terrible can happen from a fake plot. It has to be a real one.
Yep, so since there aren't any real terrorists, you have to go out and create them and then make up stupid stories like this. That's what's going on here.
My concern is if this airplane could be used as a bearer of a weapon of mass destruction or even conventional munitions that could attack a carrier, the Israelis, other allies, American forces, for instance. We have to be very alert until we know exactly where this airplane is.
Yeah, we have to be very worried about that stuff.
Israeli intelligence has certainly identified the bomb maker. He's Jean-Paul Demeux. That's a recent photograph. French Algerian, former nuclear engineer with the Iraqis. Lost his family in the Gulf War.
Jean-Paul Demeux. That was from the movie Airborne, which was an interesting movie about a terror on an airplane. Check that one out.
Yet another intelligence analysis factor is we may just be waiting to see what their plan is. What type of WMD material will they be loading onto that plane, if any?
One of my favorites is that they landed the plane some undisclosed location in Vietnam, and they're now holding the people hostages, and they might load up the plane with more explosives and then get it back up in the air and do some terrorist plot that way.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but it's scary stuff.
Yeah, they just land the plane, load it up with explosives, and fly it away. Nobody knows where it is. Nobody's able to track it. Turn the transponders off and the ACARS units off and all these other sophisticated technologies that everybody knows how to operate. And even though the reporters saying, the same reporters are saying that nobody knows how to do it, but that's just being done, and it's and then the plane just disintegrates into dust and disappears, and that's it. And then nobody can. And it flies under the radar and over the radar and around the radar, and the radars are turned off and then they turn back on again, and they're landing in secret air bases around the world. Yeah, that's how things really work. And we got one passenger's girlfriend, who seems to know everything about everything. We got Michio Kaku. We got the cloaks of invisibility. This is all very, very, very credible, and it's not for total morons, of course not.
The instruments of mass death, weapons of mass destruction, nuclear weapon, nuclear weapon, nuclear weapon, nuclear weapons, nuclear weapon, bomb, nuclear weapons, nuclear program, nuclear weapons program, nuclear scientists, nuclear holy warriors, nuclear program and nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapon, nuclear technology, biological or chemical, or a nuclear weapon. Thanks for coming.
Oh my God, he's an idiot.
Nuclear. It's pronounced nuclear.
Whatever.
Nuclear.
All right, suppose he has got a bomb. They've been up there for over an hour. Why hasn't he let it go?
I don't know. Maybe he's waiting until they get out over the ocean.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit amphetamines.
It'll happen very suddenly. One moment the tailplane spar will be perfectly normal, and the next moment the whole character of the metal will change. And the tail will break off, Captain, quite suddenly, and you'll go into a dive from which you can't recover. Your only chance, Captain, is to turn back immediately. You can cut your inboard engines to break up the vibration frequency. Land at the first available airport. And if you don't do it, Captain, this airplane's going to crash into the sea, and we're all going to be killed.
That was Jimmy Stewart from an old movie called No Highway in the Sky, another air disaster movie. And sudden death is a very, very instinctive or innate human fear, and it always is brought out very clearly and easily with these air disaster stories. And it's another reason to use an air disaster story to propagate all these thoughts and everything that they want in your head, so you can be led to the police state and to the world government and to fighting unjust wars and against the Muslims and against terrorists and such. And that's, again, that's the reason. That's what we call media fakery, and we're explaining why they do these fake stories and why these stories are made up. And this is a made up story. There is no missing plane. Period.
Do you know what will happen if you push it too far? Wing flutter, metal fatigue, turbine failure.
Oh no, I'm going down! Why didn't I listen to Dottie?
Yeah, why don't you listen to Dottie?
She's the smartest mechanic in the world. Oh my gosh, what? The orphanage kids fly out of the way!
Ah,
Wow, that was vivid and specific.
That was a Disney movie called Planes, where they're talking about, and again, how the planes are going to fall apart and in the sky, and that's to scare little kids about planes as well.
The sudden decompression at 30,000 feet is something you gotta see to believe.
He'll get sucked out, won't he?
Think so will anybody sitting next to him. Until that pressure equalizes, everything within 20 feet of him that's not nailed down or strapped in is going to get sucked right out that hole.
Is it that powerful? Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. When I was a mechanic in the Air Force, I was being transferred on a Matt's plane. At 20,000 feet, one of the windows shattered. The guy sitting next to it was about 170 pounds. He went through that little space like a hunk of hamburger going down a disposal, and right after him, coats, pillows, blankets, cups, saucers. Yeah, I'm sure.
Takes about 3 seconds, doesn't it?
3, 4, 5, depends on the size of the hole. Everything fogs up just like that. And then watch out. That altitude, you can't breathe, so unless they get on oxygen in 45 seconds, it's goodbye.
That was from the original movie Airport, and where they were talking about if the bomb goes off in the plane and blows a hole, everything gets sucked out of the hole. And I remember when I watched that movie when I was a young kid, and I remember thinking about, wow, I was like, I remember that stuck in my head forever. I still remember, like, and do I know if that's even true or not? I mean, I don't know. I've also seen movies where they're paratroopers jumping out of the plane. They don't get sucked out of the plane when the door opens, but what do I know? Keep it going.
A landing gear fire is also entirely possible, especially on underinflated tires, which is common on large airliners during a hot night on a long runway. And if the blowout occurred during takeoff, the resulting fire would burn slowly, but eventually produce horrific, incapacitating smoke. Thinking the flight crew was probably overcome by smoke, and the plane continued on the heading, probably on autopilot, until it ran out of fuel or the fire destroyed the control surfaces and it crashed.
That was from the Alex Jones show again, talking about a landing gear fire could have started the whole. So in other words, when the plane took off, the tires caught on fire, turned the landing gear on fire, and then it slowly smoldered and cooked while they were flying along, and then all of a sudden knocked out all the communication systems, and the plane crashed, and then no debris was found, and that's what happened.
The ideas, the thoughts, and the opinions of the masses are being manipulated through fear.
My bag is packed and ready to go. It has been since Saturday morning.
Ready to go where?
Wherever he is.
Okay. So that's the girlfriend, Sarah Baggett. She's all over the place. My bag is packed, and I'm ready to go.
My bag is packed and ready to go.
All my bags are packed, ready to go.
Good old John Denver. Yeah, that's a trick of that one in your head. My bag is packed.
You have a bag all packed and ready
to go
for Philip.
My bag is packed and ready to go.
All my bags are packed, ready to go.
My son even helped me pick out which clothes to bring for him, so I have an outfit for him in my backpack. Yep, it's all ready.
Ready to go?
'Cause I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again.
Well, that's right, Wolf. She is certain he's alive based on her logic and on her gut feels.
She's certain based on her logic and gut feels.
Philip Wood, a technical storage executive at IBM, who would know how all this stuff works, who was aboard the now missing Malaysian airline flight, keistered his iPhone 5 in his anus after Boeing 777 carrying 239 people was hijacked by military personnel while en route to China.
I hate to wake you up to say goodbye.
She started a Facebook page and a Twitter site.
Yeah, there you go.
As reported by Stone, the picture was posted along with the following text, allegedly from Wood. I have been held hostage by unknown military personnel after my flight was hijacked and he was blindfolded. I work for IBM and have managed to hide my cell phone in my ass during the hijack. I have been separated from the rest of the passengers and I am in a cell. My name is Philip Woods. I think I have been drugged as well and cannot think clearly.
And you can always follow me on Twitter.
I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Can a plane really vanish? Well, you have the pilots hijacking it.
See, there's a certain clairvoyance that black folks born with. We don't have it as much now as we used to, but that's always been there. And so they can listen to you and know ain't no tricking going on, ain't no nothing. They don't even have to question. Very seldom you hear a black person talking about conspiracy theory, right? The conspiracy theory is the New York Times and the Washington Post and NBC and CBS.
There was a guy named Dick Gregory who's a total shilling clown also, who's used to be a comedian, I guess, back in the 70s, and now he's on Alex Jones' show kissing Alex's ass, and Alex is talking about how, well, he's like, plane can't really vanish. He's like, unless the pilots hijacked it. And then Dick Gregory's like, black folks, can trust Alex Jones. Yeah, right. Just idiotic nonsense from the Alex Jones show. And now we're going to get into a little segment. I'm coming down the backstretch of the show, frankly. We're going to get into a little segment on the pilots. And this is like a secondary agenda, which I'm going to bring out here, is that the airlines have our biggest expense are these high paid and highly well-trained pilots, and they get big pensions and they make good salaries for from what I understand in the $200,000-$300,000 a year range, which I'm sure is deserved. It's not a something you take lightly to being a pilot of a major aircraft airliners like these guys are, and they're highly trained and highly professional. But it seems to me that all the propaganda in the media when it comes to these movies about the air disasters, it's always like the pilots are, fucking up, or the pilots get sick and then, or something happens to the pilots and then somebody else the stewardess flies a plane or some passenger flies a plane. And what they're trying to lead you to believe is that anybody can fly a plane. We don't really need to pay these guys so much money. So this is the secondary agenda, which is to, it's just kind of like this with the school system thing where I showed you my last shows where they're like, yeah, the teachers are too high paid. We can just have a teacher's assistant or an app or something to fly the plane or to teach your children. And then, so they're trying to, whenever a fascist criminal mafiocracy takes over, what they want to do is start eliminating everybody who gets paid well and make everybody into a low income, low dig slave worker. And this is along the same line. So we're going to start blaming things on pilots now and this is a little segment on that.
Where are the dossiers about the pilots? Because I don't think it's prejudice. It's just common sense in the world that we live in that you would have checked into the backgrounds. Maybe there's nothing there.
Right, the pilots committed suicide, the pilots that crashed the planes, the pilots are terrorists, yeah, right.
We have a complete dossier on you. Richard Blaine, American, age 37, cannot return to his country. The reason is a little vague. We also know what you did in Paris, Mr. Blaine, and also we know why you left Paris. Don't worry, we are not going to broadcast it.
Oh, my eye's really brown.
Let me ask you this about the Malaysian airplane headed to Beijing. It's a week later, poof. It's like a David Copperfield thing. Where did it go?
David Copperfield's one of the most famous illusionists in Vegas. He's a magician, and Letterman's like, it's almost like a David Copperfield. Just went poof, and the plane just vanished.
But, it's just like a magician playing tricks on the audience.
And then the girlfriend again, Sarah Back, and she's like, that was on the BBC. She's like, it's just like a magician playing tricks on the audience. Isn't that cleverly and conveniently similar to what Letterman is saying?
But, it's just like a magician playing tricks on the audience.
It looks to me, and this is speculation, it looks to me like a pilot suicide. Really? That's what it looks like to me.
Okay, that was the same guy, O'Reilly, who said he said, I think it's at the bottom of the Indian Ocean, but then he says on Letterman, it looks to me like it's a pilot suicide. And that doesn't explain anything on why the plane, if the pilot did commit suicide, I mean, where is the wreckage of the plane, or where are the debris and everything else? But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
If I get on a flight that's Malaysian bound, I'd like to know that my pilot is not on a suicide mission.
There's a good old Nancy Grace from CNN. She's like, first of all, the plane was supposedly China bound, but she's like, if I get on a flight or Malaysian bound, she wants to know her pilot's on a suicide mission. Oh, yeah, like, so what do you do? So should we just ask every time you get on the plane? You're like, hi, welcome aboard Malaysian Airlines. Like, you want to? Hey, can you just tell me, make sure that the pilot's not on a suicide mission before I get on this plane? Yeah, that's not absurdity for you. Keep going.
Shah, a member of Anwar's party, was so distraught at him being sentenced again in a politically motivated court hearing that he entered the cockpit of Flight 370 that night with evil intentions.
Okay, so Christiane Amanpour, the lying liar from ABC TV, is going to say that and the name of the pilot, of course, is Shah, like the Shah of Iran. Again, that's just. These are all made-up names and to link your thoughts to certain ideas and to certain visions. And the Shah, he's the Shah, and he's the pilot of the plane, and he has political motivations to kill himself and the passengers aboard the plane, even though none of it can be explained as such.
Excuse me, sir. There's been a little problem in the cockpit.
The cockpit? What is it?
It's the little room in the front of the plane where the pilot sit. That's not important right now.
Now they are shifting attention to the pilot who was seen wearing anti-government T-shirts in the past, anti-Malaysian government T-shirts.
He's a thought criminal, too. The pilot is wearing anti-government T-shirts. He was seen wearing them. Isn't that good journalism from Alex Jones again? The pilot was seen wearing anti-Malaysian government T-shirts. And Nancy Grace, I'd like to know about that if I'm going to be flying that plane. I want to know if my pilot, what kind of T-shirts he wears on his day off.
This complicates it and puts a responsibility back on the pilot. He was having marital problems. He was having political problems. his co-pilot had memorized the Quran, and so there are things that
his co-pilot memorized the Quran. Who told? Where did you get that information from? That was the general who said they landed the plane in Pakistan, and the pilots. That pilot's wearing anti-government T-shirts. And he's got marital problems, and he's divorcing his wife. He's wearing anti-government T-shirts, and his partner memorized the Quran.
we need to look at that could fit in the patterns of behavior of terrorism.
And again, we also go back, he wore the T-shirt, "Democracy is Dead."
And he's wearing the "Democracy is Dead" T-shirt. Oh, no. This guy is bad news. He's bad news.
Jim, when I get on a plane,
Yes.
and I've got my 2 6-year-olds with me on either side of me, you know, maybe I'm bamboozled, but I trust the pilots. I take a look at them. I try to speak to them if I can, and I trust them. This is scary to me, that you could have a pilot that is strung out of his mind. He's in the middle of a divorce, like this pilot, angry, upset, distraught.
She tries to meet the pilot before she gets on the plane. I've heard a lot about. Have you ever heard of that before? She's like, I want to speak to. Is the pilot going through a divorce? Because I don't want him to kill me and himself because he's going through a divorce. That's really realistic too. And this is all insanity, by the way. Let's keep it going.
And I believe both pilots may have been complicit.
We're caught in between, was the pilot dirty, getting ready to do something really criminal and awful?
Blame it on the pilots.
And they're reporting that his family moved out and disappeared the day before the disappearance. That's red linked up on drudgereport.com.
Drudge Report reporting that the pilot's family moved out of what? I don't know. They moved out of Malaysia, I guess, the day before he disappeared.
The Boeing 77200 Stats is a long-range, wide-body, twin-engine jet airliner, commonly referred to as a 777. It incorporates more technologies than any other previous Boeing airliner.
There's a generic concern about these airplanes that they're very highly automated, and they may be more automated than some pilots could handle, and that
they're more automated than some pilots can handle.
If you fly them enough, your basic flying skills deteriorate, or maybe you didn't have the basic flying skills to begin with.
Good old reporting from CNN. So now, the more technologically advanced the plane is, the less prepared the pilot becomes, which makes no sense either. But again, I told you that to discredit the pilots in any way you can is part of the fascist agenda to lower their salaries and get maybe in a pilot some sort of a less qualified operator versus a professional pilot in there, and that's where we're leading to now. And of course, eventually they'll tell you that we're going to remote control the planes. There are no more pilots, so we can eliminate that cost, and that'll really help safety a lot.
They've got one theme song. You can laugh. Pilot's error. Whenever anything goes wrong with their calculations and there's a smash up, pilot's error.
I know, but this guy doing the flying has no airline experience at all. He's a menace to himself and everything else in the air. Yes, birds too.
There is a pilot on the radio telling her what to do, telling her exactly how to do it.
Pardon me. What her?
The first stewardess is at the controls, but she is in constant touch with the tower.
You mean the stewardess that's flying the plane?
Please keep your voice down.
Sure. Stewardess is flying the plane.
Stewardess is flying the plane now.
Can you fly this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Your employees watching this worldwide will, and particularly, of course, in the United States, will want to know the implications. If we take the United, the Delta, the other examples, there have been give-backs, pensions have been cut back, longer hours for less money.
There you go. That was Richard Quest talking about the pilots' compensations now, and the employee compensations. Again, where I was leading at was that this is another secondary agenda, which is to break the unions of the airline industry and to to make all the workers a subsistence workers rather than professionals that are well paid and well taken care for, which would happen with a thriving middle class and an upwardly mobile society, which is what everything is working against these days. Keep it going.
You ever been in a cockpit before?
No, sir, I've never been up in a plane before.
You ever seen a grown man naked?
Right, and pilots are also pedophiles too now.
Well, you got first, it's a Malaysian plane. 20 passengers work for electronic warfare and military radar.
Yes.
Okay, now, they had just came up with something, and what I understand, real evil stuff they doing. And so the patent.
Okay, and by the way, this is Dick Greger, who's a comedian, okay? Now he's an expert commentator on the Malaysian lost flight. Again, he's no expert on anything, let alone airplanes and terrorism and things like that. But that's who Alex Jones has on his show as an expert on the Malaysian flight disappearance. That just shows you that this story is a crock of nonsense, okay? And so now they're going to talk about how they had 30 people on the plane. All of them are in the high-tech military chip making industry, and for high tech computer chips used for military equipment and things of that nature. And they're all on the flight. They're all on the same flight as well, which is impossible to document or to verify, and that's why, of course, it sounds juicy and it's made up.
Well, you got first. It's a Malaysian plane. 20 passengers work for.
And this isn't the only group that's Alex Jones's nonsense show isn't the only place that you can hear this stupid story. But this story was going out. It was out there all over the place. The chip patent holders were on the plane, and then because they were killed on the plane or they disappeared, now they lost their patents, which that sounds very odd to me also. I don't see why their heirs wouldn't get it, but they tried to explain that away too, even though it doesn't make any sense. Keep it going.
Electronic warfare and military radar.
Yes.
Okay, now, they had just came up with something, and what I understand, real evil stuff they doing. And so the patent, so it was 4 of them out of the group that had filed for patents, and the 5th person was the Carlisle group, okay?
Yes, I knew that.
Now, when those 4 disappear or get killed, okay, the patent was not granted till 4 days after the plane was missing, okay? The patent. Now, if you had one of those patents, your family don't get it because the plane was missing or you were dead before you got a.
Well, I've seen this before
which doesn't make any sense at all. And Dick Gregory is telling us, well, how does he know this information? He's a comedian from the 70s, and he's on Alex Jones' show as an expert. That's just to tell you that if you believe that, you're an absolute moron. But people are like, yeah, well, Gregory, who's Dick Gregory, and what the hell is that supposed to mean even?
You've got like 50 Egyptian top generals on an aircraft that just disappears. When you've got Congressman McDonald on a plane with key people, it disappears. We've seen this before, and I've said from the beginning that it could be a brain heist or a way to get rid of some people. And they just redirect it to a military base. And Dick Gregory, I think you're on it again.
One question I have for you gentlemen. The Malaysian flight that went down, 4 of the top chip makers were from Freestyle Semiconductor or something like that. Now that they're gone, that patent goes to Carlisle. I know that's a
Carlisle Group, really?
I wonder what you thought about that.
Yeah, there were a bunch of top tech people on that plane.
First of all, it's not Freestyle. I forgot it was Free Stars or something like that. Freestyle. I forgot. Anyway, it was. And he said Carlisle. It's Carlisle, but and all that stuff is dubious information, to say the least. And the chip makers, I mean, where is people getting all this garbage from? And it's not because, you know, like it's put out there, it's written into the story. Some clever person where they write these garbage stories came up with that, and people like, yeah, let's run with that too. We'll tell Dick Gregory to tell everybody that on the Carlisle group, on the Alex Jones show, and everybody will believe that nonsense too.
One question I have for you gentlemen. The Malaysian flight that went down, 4 of the top chip makers were from Freestyle Semiconductor or something like that. Now that they're gone, That patent goes to Carlyle. I know that's a
Carlyle Group,
right?
really?
I wonder what you thought about that.
Yeah, there were a bunch of top tech people on that plane.
Yeah, Alex is just playing along with it, he's acting stupid too. Carlyle Group, yeah, really?
Now, the Carlyle Group is connected to the Bush family, and I understand that they're also connected to the Bin Laden families.
No, and Bin Laden's again too. The Bin Ladens. Oh,
there's actually no evidence that points to a crash. You know, if every crime requires intent.
Okay, this is the girlfriend again. Now she's talking about evidence that points to a crash and crimes require intent. And I'm like, what kind of girlfriend is she? And this is on the BBC now. She's on CNN, CBS, BBC, and ABC.
There's actually no evidence that points to a crash. You know, if every crime requires intent and requires motive and means. So they have the means of the plane. We don't know the intent, but if you're going to go to all the trouble to take an airplane filled with relatively valuable people, I mean, there were 30 defense contracting engineers with very unique skill sets on that flight. It would have been a valuable prize for a country looking to gain advantage in military weaponry, right? So there would be a lot of motivation to get a hold of that flight. I see no motivation for somebody to have just crashed it. Well, it's starting to feel like it's an intentional series of distractions, is what it feels like. But the reality is, whoever has done this has been successful. I mean, they have fooled all the experts and all the governments in the world. I'm just using common sense, and I'm looking at the vast majority of what all people feel with common sense and intuition seems to have happened in this case. And most people feel that the governments are misleading us.
This is all the same lady. I played probably more than a dozen clips of her already, and now she's got so much to say about. None of it has anything to do with, like, if you were worried about your loved one. She's just going all over. She's just obviously blatantly scripted, and blatantly she is not a passenger's girlfriend. But and I'm saying that's the only passenger's acquaintance of any party on the whole plane. So again, there is no plane. Okay, and I'm coming down the back stretch of the show. I only got a bunch more clips of a couple handfuls more clips to go. I'm going to wrap it all up for you, tie it all together for you. I think you've seen where we've gone with this, but let's just keep going.
Well, Philip is my partner, and he's my... And
so it's not her husband, it's her partner. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, because you would almost think like a partner would be something if there was some sort of gay relationship, but it's a man or woman, so I'm not even sure what that's supposed to mean. But again, that's just to confuse you even more.
Soulmate, and he's the man that I planned on growing old with. Well, Philip is my partner,
and Philip is the guy who smuggled the cell phone in his keister, if you will.
And he's my soulmate, and he's the man that I planned on growing old with. And I can't help but think he would be very disappointed at how famous he's become, because we live a very simple life. We're both very private people, and when we travel backpacker style. I mean, we really just like to live very simply.
Yeah, and that's a normal thing to say too.
She's what you call a disinformation agent, just spouting bullshit everywhere.
Surely there must be something you can do.
I'm doing everything I can. And stop calling me Shirley.
Let's assume that the pilot wanted to kill all of the people aboard that flight. Well, the way to do it without firing a shot and without people being able to make any kind of a signal, write down anything, or to make a phone call that they're in duress would be to take the flight up to 45,000 feet, and people would be grasping for air. They would not be thinking about going to their cell phones or anything else. They would be holding onto those air masks for dear life. And then sustaining that for a period of 20 to 25 minutes, most people would have died at the 45,000 feet level. Then the flight quickly descends after the captain is fully aware that everybody, or whoever is flying the ship, is fully aware that everyone is dead after being at 45,000 feet for 25 minutes, then lowers the flight back down to 23,000 feet and flies at that level for a while. But the entire 239 people on board, or 25 people or 39 people, whoever it was, they're all dead. They were killed. A brilliant kill. It would have been a brilliant kill of people without firing a shot, without any kind of a panic signal. A brilliant, brilliant kill.
Okay, now here's, excuse me. Here's another expert named Reverend Manning, who's all over the media also, if you check every once in a while. And he's a pastor in Harlem, New York. And he's an expert now on this whole plane thing too. And again, that's what type of experts we have on this thing, are non-experts of any sort. And he's a pastor in a church, and now he's coming up with a brilliant kill scenario of how the pilots took the plane to such a high altitude that everybody choked out all the passengers, and they're going to incorporate a racial thing in here, just like they used Dick Gregory to do, and it's just twisted, okay, and as I come down the backstretch of these final few clips of the show, I will show you that it's just another ridiculous, absurd conspiracy theory, which will be commented on by Bill O'Reilly in the next clip. So don't think this is I pulled Reverend Manning out of my keister either, okay? And or an iPhone 5 for that matter, and how anybody could have stuck an iPhone 5 in their keister is beyond my comprehension. I'm sorry to have dwelled on that, but that's just I'm just trying to give you the full focus of how absurd this stupid story is. And anyway, so Reverend Manning said that they flew the plane up to such a high altitude that everybody choked out. I doubt that would be even high enough. Anyway, I don't want to go on record. I am not the expert on that type of thing, but he certainly isn't either. He's a pastor in a church in Harlem, if in fact that's even true, which I seriously doubt as well. I haven't gone up there and checked it because I really don't have time for that garbage. Okay. Anyway, so here's Bill O'Reilly commenting onto the same story.
Let's assume that the pilot.
Then there's the theory that this thing went up to 45,050 feet to kill everybody in the plane. I heard that all day long over the weekend. They killed the plane by taking it up. But that's not true. That wouldn't have happened, correct?
I find it hard to believe.
So I don't believe any of it. Even if you went to 45,000 feet, that wouldn't kill the people on board.
There you go. There's O'Reilly telling you that.
Hang them. It's a technological hanging.
Here's a little bit of a racial tie-in to this thing, just to piss everybody off of every shape and size. I'm not sure who it is pissing off, but it's just to make people unsettled. So now he's going to call this a technological hanging by bringing flying the plane up to that side, whilst it also being an absurd theory on how it still doesn't explain anything either, but it does explain why he's saying why so nobody called from their cell phones to say that they've been hijacked because they were all choked out by a technological hanging of the plane, and he's going to tell you that for sure that's what happened.
Hang them. It's a technological hanging by a major 777 aircraft. You hang them, choke the life out of them, and then after they're all dead, drop back down to 23,000 feet. Let's assume that did happen, and I'm sure that that's exactly what happened.
Oh, I'm sure that's what
happened. It might happen. Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Yeah, that's what happened.
It was a carefully planned hanging.
And just to give you how the sanity level of Reverend Manning, here's an old clip from him when he was talking about how when Ron Paul was running against Obama in the second presidential run.
You're whooping all of their behinds, Ron Paul. Go ahead now and get out there and whoop whoop Obama's behind. Whooping with the Constitution. He is wholly and totally ineligible. He's a criminal. Whoop him, Ron. Whoop him.
That's who we have in the media, and he's commenting on the plane flight now too. And again, that's Reverend Manning. Look him up. He's a pastor in some church in Harlem, and he's always commenting on these type of things. And he's an insane maniac as well. And okay, so that's about. I think that's pretty much a show I have for you here. I'm going to play a bunch more clips on the way out, and I guess we'll wrap it up by saying you've been given all these nonsensical stories about terrorism, about the plane being lost because of a technology flaws in the tracking systems, and no tracking. Even though we have advanced technology, none of it works anymore. Then we're going to have the pilots who are wearing anti-government T-shirts. We're going to Michio Kaku is going to tell you that there's a black hole in the Indian Ocean. That's why we can't find it there, and that in very short time, in a number of years, we're going to have a Harry Potter invisibility cloak, so you can read the mind of God. He's an expert on this as well. Then we have a woman who's a girlfriend of a guy who's supposedly on the plane, who works for IBM, who stuck his cell phone up his ass and then pulled it back out of his ass and text messaged people and sent pictures from what they're going to say was in Diego Garcia, a little island in the South Pacific, which I didn't even go into because it was so nonsensical. But that was another conspiracy theory, and he sent it out, and then they're going to say, well, because of the metadata on the picture, that's true too. And then she's going to give you all kinds of comments about terrorism, about 9/11. Oh, then we're going to tie the Bin Ladens into it in 5 different angles. The Bin Ladens are funding the chip manufacturers' disappearance, and the patent holders, and then they're also then we landed the plane in Pakistan, and nobody knows about that. Nobody knows how it got to Pakistan, and that's because that's where, and they're hiding in the same place they had Bin Laden in Pakistan. They're going to tie, and then the girlfriend of the passenger again, who keistered his phone, is going to tell you that this is all reminds her of 9/11 again. Isn't that convenient? And then we go back to the pilots again, where they're all shaky and the pilots don't know how to fly anymore. And technology has actually made them worse pilots. They're wearing thought crime T-shirts, and there we have it. And this is all to. And if you really think this is all true and this happens at all, and if you really don't believe that, fine, that would make you an absolute moron, period. And what this is all about is to propagate these agendas, for the same old game that they've been playing forever, which is bringing the world government, bringing the tyranny, bringing the police state, continue all the wars, the fake wars. And there you go. And I'm going to wrap this show up. Keep going.
So many people in this country have their heads so far up their ass, I doubt very seriously if they will manage to extricate it before they suffocate.
There you go. And the last couple of clips are going to be about how they're going to end it with, well, you know what, we're never going to find this plane, because they want to move on to the next story, which will be probably the next story show I'll do, which will be on this Bundy Ranch thing. That'll be coming soon, so stay tuned for that. But so anyway, we're going to end it up with we're never going to find the planes. So just forget about it. This story's over. Moving on. It never existed. It's never going to be found. Give up on this one. Forget about it. That's a done deal. And on that note, this show is going to be over too. It's a done deal. I'm going to lead you out with 6 or 7 more quick clips. I think I wrapped it up. Thanks again for coming aboard the Max Rat Deconstruction Zone. I'm Max Rat. You just heard my take on this Flight 370 explaining media fakery. I'll give you one more quick sign off at the end, but once again, thanks for coming aboard. Let's lead our way out of the show.
Is there a chance we may not find this plane?
Yes, there is a chance that we may never find the wreckage.
Bob, do you think it's possible we may never find this wreckage? May never find this.
If you'd asked me that.
And they're calling it plane and the wreckage, okay, so for that matter.
Is there a chance we may not find this plane?
Yes, there is a chance that we may never find the wreckage.
Bob, do you think it's possible we may never find this wreckage? May never find this.
If you'd asked me that a week ago, I would have said no. We would find some debris. We would eventually trace the debris back to the wreckage field. I think as time goes on, Bob, with an area this large to search, I think it is possible, as hard as it is to believe, that we may never find the plane.
Don't you understand what I'm trying to say? This particular aircraft doesn't exist.
A ghost ship in a fog-enshrouded night and a flight that never ends. Then you're doing your business in an old stand in the Twilight Zone.
It's very nice to go traveling to Paris, London, and Rome. It's oh so nice to go traveling, but it's so much nicer, yes, it's so much nicer to come home.
Yeah, and on that note, I'm going to sign off for you. Thanks again for coming aboard the Max Rat Deconstruction Zone on April 28th. Thanks for listening to the show, and I'm Max Rat. I'm over and out.
You said what we all think, but don't have the bones to say.
You're out of the inner circle. Please forget the Wi-Fi password.
Our forefathers wouldn't have taken it on the chin like this.
You're damn right.
If I don't come back, you tell Mother I love her.
Your mother's dead, Llewellyn.
Well, then I'll tell her myself.
Batmobile over and out.
Right.
Well, you know, sometimes the public's right to know gives me a huge pain in the ass.
Batmobile over and out.
Right.